slide up that I saw you flash and then took down? Great. And so again, just a few process guidelines for the formal public comment. It says it begins at 1:30, but here we are at 2:30. And so we took the time we needed. Thank you, Ariel, for fixing that in real time. So you just raise your hand to get in the queue. I see 3 people are in the queue right now. You'll have up to 3 minutes, and Kelly will capture your comments verbatim. If you have called in, you can do *9 on your phone to raise your hand, and so you can still submit public comments today that way. If you're unable to speak or unable to raise your hand or having other technical difficulties, we still have the Q&A open so that you can ask for help in the Q&A. We will not be responding to any more questions and answers though, so just note that. And let's see. Oh yes, and before you make your comments, please provide your full name and affiliation. Kelly may ask you to spell it. If you have a kind of an unusual name, it was helpful just to spell it right out of the chute, so that helps Kelly out. And note that BOEM does not consider anonymous comments in the public record. When you're making comments, just like we've demonstrated all day with everybody who's been participating, we ask that you use respectful language and respect the time limits as assigned. I have not assigned time limits up until now, but I will be using time limits now. So it's up to 3 minutes. I believe that's all of the rules I have to share about this. And so if you want to go ahead and take that down. Kelly, are we ready? Okay, 2 thumbs up from Kelly. Dale Beasley, I see that you're first in line. So Dale, if you'd like to introduce yourself to us, your name and an agency or affiliation, and let us know your comments. I'm not hearing Dale say anything. There we go. I see Dale unmuted. Dale, go ahead and say something so we know that you're there.
My name is Dale Beasley. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Thank you.
Okay, I'm president of the Columbia River Crab Fishermen's Association and the Coalition of Coastal Fisheries, which does have individual fishermen fishing in the area where these are proposed. And I have a question I've been trying to struggle with here. How does the NEPA process, prescribe a positive outcome for marine species and individual fisheries, since NEPA itself does not necessarily lead to protective measures? It just provides a process. It doesn't get to the bottom line. I've heard a lot of questions today, but the NEPA process doesn't necessarily answer the questions when you move forward with this. So how is that going to work? That's my question. If you can't answer it today, I will be expecting an answer in writing later on. My email is crabby@bakerbay.org. I'm done.
Thank you, Dale. And just a reminder, BOEM won't be answering questions as a part of the public comment today, but your question has been put into the public record. So appreciate that, Dale. The next person we have is Richard Bratt. Richard, hopefully I pronounced your last name correctly.
Yes, you did. Did a very good job. I have a question. I used to be in production and management and stuff, and I don't understand. We talk about the cost of the blades and the stuff and the materials, how we're going to dispose of them, what they're doing to our animals. We haven't done any of this stuff, but we're spending all this money on this other stuff. It seems like we're ahead of ourselves. We need to determine, is it feasible to do even? I look at the cost of levelized capital cost estimated for 2027. That'd be about time to be up. $103.80 per megawatt. The cost would be. That's for offshore. Onshore is only $29 and some cents. Advanced nuclear is only $60.70. I don't know why we're not. Hydro is $46. Why we're not exploring some more of this other stuff. And most of the components come from China. Are any of these components going to be that they get computerized, that they could shut it down? I mean, these questions need to be asked. One of my reports I looked up, 80% of the materials come from China. And the other one is, I wrote it in my in the written comments. We didn't get to them though, but again, the birds. There's some statistics out there where that's like eagles. They this one report I'm just looking at right now said eagles we lost. Sorry about that, but we just need to take a look at that first, I think, before we go on. And you got to look at what's costing, and with this inflation and everything else. Are people going to be able to afford it? I mean, we have climate change. We have 4 seasons. That's climate change. Get with it. The climate goes up and down. We've had ice ages in the past. We've had different things, you know. I think some of the stuff's being pushed without being looked at, and everyone wants to be so political right, which is wrong. We got to use our common sense. And I thank you for listening. I'm done.
Thank you, Richard. Next up is Heather Mann. Heather, again, let us know who you are so Kelly can capture that.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I'm Heather Mann. I am the director of the Midwater Trawlers Cooperative. MTC represents 32 trawl vessels that participate in various West Coast fisheries. Most of the boats are home ported in Newport. And I would say that over the last 2 years, I have spent probably 2,000 hours working on offshore wind issues in addition to my regular job, which is keeping my vessels out fishing. This is one of the biggest threats to commercial fishing that I think we're facing in my career. So MTC vessel owners, crew, and their families, as well as other commercial and recreational businesses, are going to be negatively impacted if you do development in the draft wind energy areas. The shoreside and mothership whiting sectors are very important to the Oregon coast. They support tens of thousands of jobs, and whiting is an affordable, healthy protein that's consumed around the nation. It's also served in school lunch programs across the United States, as well as here in Oregon, where more than 22% of our Oregon children live in food insecure homes. Some get their only healthy meal at lunch, and they're eating Pacific whiting. That's important. We're food providers, and we are harvesting whiting in those draft wind energy areas. And by this time next week, I will have the actual amount of pounds that we've harvested in those areas that I'll share. But clearly somebody at BOEM felt that this fishery wasn't valuable enough to steer clear of. And with the amount of time that we have put into trying to collaborate with BOEM, it's really disappointing. I always say there's a lot of good people at BOEM, and I believe that to be true. But BOEM continues to misunderstand what authentic engagement is and seems to think that just holding meetings is collaboration. BOEM seems to believe that simply extending the comment period by 30 days is being responsive to the concerns of stakeholders, but you're not acknowledging or answering any of the legitimate questions which were significantly voiced during the call for information and since. I mean, none of those have been answered. My 11-page detailed letter, none of that has been answered. And we were told that you were going to show your work. I am not seeing it. An example, during the council meeting, it was brought up that there's a Dover Sole nursery area up in the Coos Bay draft wind energy area. The modelers said they had no idea, but it has been voiced in more than one public meeting to BOEM, that nursery area. So the concern is about the black box of when you provide this information, how is it treated at BOEM? You talk a lot about nymphs and NOAA, but you asked us to provide information, and we did. We took the time, the energy, the money, the effort. The 3 pages I submitted on whiting was very detailed from C-State. How is that information used, if it is at all? And I'm going to be attending next week, and I'll have more comments then, but we continue to advocate for rescinding the current call areas. We think they were placed based on incomplete and flawed information. We want you to start again. We want you to improve the modeling, make the modeling trade-offs transparent, include the public in the decision-making about which layers go into the modeling. Look at the whole Oregon coast and look at areas deeper than 1,300 meters. And I think that's in line with a lot of the comments that you got for the call, including the 17 coastal municipalities, ports, counties, cities that all asked you to slow down, look outside 1,300 meters, do this the right way. So those are my comments that I have today. And that's it. Thanks, Jamie.
Heather, thank you. I see Yelena. Good to see you, Yelena. We're asking everyone to identify themselves and their organization for the port reporter for Kelly, and then to keep your comments within 3 minutes.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you. My comments may go over 3 minutes, but I guess feel free to cut me off when needed. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yelena Novak, Yelena Nowak. I'll be speaking on behalf of the Oregon Trawl Commission, an industry-funded state agency that was established by the Oregon legislature to support the Oregon's trawl fishing industry. Our constituents include all Oregon trawl fishermen who fish bottom trawl groundfish, Oregon pink shrimp, Pacific whiting, and rockfish, delivering their catch to seafood processors in Oregon. Excuse me. Our industry relies heavily on the areas in and around the BOEM's Oregon draft wind energy areas for fishing, bycatch avoidance. We rely on these areas for the NOAA's scientific surveys and the data they generate. And these areas also overlap some of the highly sensitive areas our fisheries depend on, including the nursing grounds that you heard Heather mentioned. As we said many times before, it is very frustrating to provide a public comment after task force has adjourned. The way these virtual meetings are organized, it is not even clear which task force members or agency folks are still listening. It is just very frustrating. I want to share that. First, I would like to say that BOEM's job is to lease ocean space to private interests and to facilitate the development of offshore wind industry and not to protect the environment per se. It is BOEM's goal to make sure that offshore wind development, is it the BOEM's goal to make sure that offshore wind development does not disrupt the upwelling or marine food web or fisheries? If it was, I believe they would approach the planning and siting completely differently from the very beginning. The fact that the ecosystem layer is completely absent in the suitability model tells me that BOEM either does not understand the importance of these areas to the entire marine region of the West Coast, or they simply refuse to acknowledge that fact. If BOEM chose to perform the proper upfront analysis through a programmatic environmental impact statement, which we asked many times before, chances are they would learn that this region may not even be the appropriate venue for the utility scale offshore wind development because of how important these areas are to sustain the fisheries and other marine life of our coast, and how many known and unknown impacts there is from offshore wind development to these regions. There are only 4 of these regions in the world. They produce 20% of all commercial harvests worldwide, while only taking up 1% of the global ocean space. And what makes these regions so special is the coastal upwelling. Does BOEM care about the economic costs of offshore wind development to the fishing industry or to our communities? In the recent modernization rule to update the renewable energy rule published earlier this year, BOEM acknowledged that they do not believe offshore wind development will have significant economic impacts to small fishing businesses or small coastal communities. They didn't even include these entities in their initial economic impact analysis required by the Federal Regulatory Flexibility Act. The only entities they did include were energy related. entities. On the East Coast, BOEM authorized wind developers to compensate the fishing industry penny on the dollar. BOEM never really shared with the public which information they based their determination that it is not techno-economically feasible to develop offshore wind in the areas deeper than 1,300 meters on the West Coast. What are they basing this determination on? Informal feedback from the offshore wind industry, or there is a legitimate excuse me, legitimate document that we can all take a look at? If there is not enough scientific evidence about the impacts of electromagnetic field, EMF, to whales, for example, then how can BOEM conclude that they do not believe there will be any impacts from the EMF to individual whales or to the entire species population? If data about impacts is limited, it should be a reason for more caution, not less. Instead, BOEM seems to be choosing to jump to a premature conclusion that not enough data means not enough evidence about the impacts. This approach is false and may cost heftily for the health of the marine and human environments for these and future generations of Oregonians.
Hey,
And-
Elena,
Yep.
I'm trying to jump in when you took a breath.
Okay.
You used your time up, but can you wrap up?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry about that, Jamie. I just want to say that that issue is not limited to EMF, and I agree with Heather that simply extending a deadline for public comment is not enough. BOEM should do the job right, do it responsibly, and we request that they cancel the draft wind energy areas, resend the coal areas, and start the process over using the proper data to select the proper areas, including areas outside of 1,300 meters. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I apologize for my lengthy comments.
Thank you, Yelena. Next up, we have Greg Shaughnessy. Greg, do remind us who you're with.
Yes, thank you. Greg Shaughnessy. I'm with Ocean Gold Seafoods, and we are located in Westport, Washington. Our fleet of boats range from the northern tip of Washington State down to mid-California. So everything that happens along the coast is of great interest to us and concern, quite frankly. I want to thank Doug. I know you had to weather a lot of arrows kind of slung your way, but we're trying to voice to you guys our concerns, and we've been doing that for the last couple of years. So I'll just echo what Heather and Yelena said, is that true engagement, the concerns I heard today were the concerns I heard a couple of years ago. And this rapid timeline that BOEM seems to be on does not give us enough time to truly measure what's going on out there and what the effects, what the ecological effects of wind turbines are going to have on the ocean circulation in the California current. There's so many big unknowns there that we need to step very carefully. I consider everything from shore out to the 100-fathom break to be the cradle of life. I mean, you got the continental rise and the slope and the break, and that's where the magic happens. It fertilizes the entire shelf, and the creatures move around that shelf and along that edge to live and thrive, and we're out there with them. We need to be very careful that we don't damage this important ecology that all of these coastal communities rely on. The process is moving too fast. We need to slow it down. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Greg. Mike Okanowski, again, remind us who you're with for Kelly's benefit.
It won't be again because I forgot to do it the first time. Mike Okanowski, West Coast Pelagic Conservation Group. We're primarily involved with helping in this cooperative survey with the Southwest Fisheries Science Center since about 2017. It looks like we're going to be going for a while. Hopefully. What I wanted to mention is a couple of things just to get it on the record. And one is we support what Heather said about rescinding the call areas or WEAs that are being put out there right now. The second one is that we support what the PFMC is putting together, and I know part of it because I'm on the MPC. So that'll be forthcoming from the council. If you look at this, just, you know, hardcore to hardcore, this is competition for real estate. And, you know, we can say, well, why not go what's new technology and whatnot? This technology, I think, is already outdated myself. And I think that there's a lot cleaner and cheaper things that will develop that are on the drawing board right now. And I think we're going to be chasing that, rather putting our money into this rather than going where the new technology would take us. And that's not anything I remember America being proud of, is chasing everybody else. But that's what we're doing in my estimation. So I just say that for the fish, if you're looking at, you know, weighing balance scale and fishing versus this electricity that we're supposed to be generating, we might generate 1-2 cycles of electricity. We've been fishing off the East Coast for over 500 years. And we've got a balancing, equilibrium of sustainability going on now, but that will continue for another 500 years if we don't mess it up. I think offshore wind's going to mess it up because we don't even know what the hell we're getting into. But the fishing's not going to bounce back ever if you destroy it. And I think what you're doing is going to destroy it. More importantly is what's going to happen to the ecology of the ocean. I know that's been mentioned time and again. I probably was one of the first people to bring it up. And I got a lot of answers that were just no answers at all. And I see some of that still today. There's a lot more research that needs to be done. And if I've got just a second, I saw South Dakota and 4 other states did a 2 or 3 year programmatic EIS. And when they were done, they went through hell to get it done. But they said it actually offered a better framework to get started to begin with. And I think that would be the case here. And we may spend more time and wish we had when we don't do this, because I think there's going to be a lot of challenges before it's over. And the programmatic EIS might be for the benefit of everybody, not just our side of the fence. So I put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mike. I see Nick Edwards, another familiar face. Good to see you, Nick. Go ahead and remind everybody who you're with.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you coming through just loud and clear, Nick.
Okay, great. Great to see everybody. My name is Nick Edwards, and I'm representing Shrimp Producers Marketing Cooperative today. Our members are permitted in Oregon, Washington, and California, and we harvest MSC certified pink shrimp for the global supply chain. The Coos Bay Collar area, or the wind energy area, has been so drastically reduced by Coast Guard PARs and DoD. This wind energy area will produce far less than 1 gigawatt and should be removed as a viable wind energy area for Oregon. BOEM needs to further protect the spawning grounds for Dover and Petrale sole in the northeast corner of the Coos Bay Collar area. In the next steps ahead, those spawning aliquots in those areas need to be removed. This will reduce the Coos Bay wind energy area even smaller, making it a non-viable project. Given DoD and Coast Guard PARs have drastically reduced the Coos Bay Collar areas, producing less than 1 gigawatt of power in Coos Bay Collar area is a negative trade-off for our California current ecosystem, its upwellings, and our natural resources. Therefore, the Coos Bay wind energy area should be removed from this process. You know, giving credit to the BOEM representatives when we started this a couple of years ago with Doug and Whitney, BOEM learned from public comment on the abandoned collar area. We had a 25% rocky reef habitat. It was a major rockfish rebuilding area and at a very steep slope. And because of public comment, BOEM decided to remove the abandoned collar area. So give you credit to that, Doug. But our members would like BOEM to rescind the current call areas and follow Oregon's congressional delegation and explore wind energy areas outside of the 1,300 meter depth and beyond. So we would love you to rescind the call areas and look at exploring all options, just like the suggestions from the Pacific Fisheries Management Council and the letters from our congressional delegation. Thanks for the time, guys.
Thanks, Nick. I'm not seeing any other hands up that want to provide public comment. I don't want to shortchange anyone, so I'll create a little pause here and see if anybody else wants to provide some public comment for Kelly to transcribe. I'm not seeing any. So Jean, I'm going to look to you, and Doug, what do you say? Do we want to go ahead and close the formal public comment?
Yeah, Jamie, I say it's probably the prudent move at this point. I will say again, thanks for everyone, and hope to see some of you next week when we're down along the Oregon coast. Again, great meeting. I appreciate the comments, and we'll take them into consideration as we continue to show our work moving forward.
Right. Thank you, Doug. And I just want to clarify, thank you to everybody. I want to note we have still over 100 participants, and that's incredible to spend this much time with us all day. So really appreciate that. Again, this meeting was in 3 parts. The first part was the task force meeting, and there will be a summary associated with the task force meeting. We closed that meeting, and then we opened up a Q&A. We will provide the information that was captured as a part of the task force summary as an addendum. Anything that was answered verbally, we have the recording. Everything's been recorded, so we will not be transcribing those. Just wanted to clarify that. And then the third part of the meeting was this last part, which is the formal public comment. And that's the public comments that were given today will be forwarded to the federal docket. Jean, I see that you've come off. You've put your camera on, so I'm assuming you have something you'd like to share.
Just wanted to say hello.
Okay. So that closes our public comment time. Again, thank you so much for everybody for being here. We have a fisheries meeting later this week that you're welcome to join. We will also have our court reporter available then. And then we will physically be out on the Oregon coast for 3 days next week. And we look forward to being in your communities and spending some more time talking about this important topic. So with that, I'm going to close everything down. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Stay well.